Chapter 3, page 48. Levels of Organization. Chapter outline. We'll talk about structure and function at the cell level, tissue level, organ and organ system level. Talk about directional terms and anatomical position, body planes and movement, body cavities, regions and quadrants, structure and functional practice exercises, combining forms and abbreviations, that's in there twice, practice exercises, pharmacology, and at the end of the chapter there will be practice exercises. Structure and function. The human body is arranged in a complex yet orderly fashion. Therefore, a systematic approach to studying is helpful. Chemistry courses typically study the human body at the atomic and molecular levels. Some biology courses, such as cellular biology, study the body at a cellular level. Other courses, such as anatomy and physiology and medical terminology, generally study the body at the organ and organ system levels. This will be our approach. Cell level. Cells are the structural units that form all body tissues. Their functions are consistent with the functions of the tissues they comprise. Their walls are comprised of a membrane made up of lipids, which is fats, proteins, and other components that selectively allow certain substances, such as nutrients, to enter and other substances, such as waste, to leave. Within the cell is a gelatinous substance called cytoplasm. It surrounds a variety of tiny structures called organelles that are important to cellular function. The largest of these is the nucleus. Contained within the nucleus is deoxyribonucleic acid, which is DNA, which is the genetic material that makes up the blueprint for your body. It includes information that determines your gender, skin, hair, and eye colors, and numerous other features. Flashpoint. Each cell contains organelles that perform a specific function. Some of the major organelles found in human cells behave like an online shopping service that takes your order, packages the item, and delivers them to your home. Ribosomes process genetic instructions. The Golgi apparatus package the molecules. The endoplasmic reticulum transports the molecules to their destination, and the mitochondria provide the energy or fuel for the transportation. Section. Tissue level. Tissue is composed of a group of similar cells that perform a specific function, and the types of tissues are epithelial, connective, nervous, and muscle. Epithelial tissue forms the epidermis, top layer of skin, and surface layer of the membranes. It may be comprised of a single layer or of several layers. Single layer is denoted as simple, and the several layers one is called stratified. It is also classified according to the cell shape: squamous, which is flat; cuboidal, which is cube-shaped; or columnar, which is cylindrical. Epithelial tissue has many functions, including protection, absorption, and secretion. Flashpoint. Because of its location and the large amount of wear and tear it undergoes, epithelial tissue has an amazing ability to regenerate or replace itself, sometimes as often as every 24 hours. So there's different kinds of cells listed here on page 49. Simple squamous cells are flat in shape. Simple cuboidal cells are cube-shaped. Simple columnar cells are cylindrical in shape. Connective tissue is composed of cells that are able to form tissues of various consistencies. These tissues act to connect and support other body tissues. And various types of connective tissue include cartilage, adipose, which is fat, bone, and even blood. Heading: Nervous tissue. Nervous tissue is composed of cells called neurons, which function to transmit nerve impulses by the release of chemicals called neurotransmitters. Nervous tissue comprises the brain, spinal cord, and nerves for the entire body. Heading: Muscle tissue. Muscle tissue is composed of cells called contractible fibers. As each muscle cell contracts or relaxes, it shortens or lengthens. Consequently, the muscle also shortens or lengthens. Muscles help you move your body, make your heart beat, and help many of your internal organs function and maintain your blood pressure. Flashpoint. Muscle tissue has a normal resting length when there is no stimulus or force applied to it. It is the only tissue in the body with these 4 characteristics. 1. Irritability, the ability to respond to a stimulus. 2. Contractility, the ability to shorten or contract when it receives a stimulus. Extensibility, the ability to stretch or lengthen when a force is applied. Elasticity, the ability to return to its normal resting length when the shortening stimulus or stretching force is removed. So those 4 characteristics: irritability, contractibility, extensibility, and elasticity. Section level, organ and organ system level. Organs are structures made up of 2 or more type of tissues that perform specialized functions. For example, the heart is composed of cardiac muscle tissue, various types of membranes, and special nervous tissue. Many organs and related structures function together as an organ system to accomplish a specific purpose. For example, the heart acts as a pump, along with a complex network of arteries, veins, and capillaries. It comprises the cardiovascular system. This system circulates blood throughout your body for your entire lifetime. There are many other organ systems as well. You will learn about these as you read this book. Section, page 50, Directional Terms and Anatomical Position. Accurate communication is critically important in the world of healthcare. To ensure that this occurs, all healthcare workers must speak the language of medical terminology in a clear and efficient manner. You will begin learning this language by learning directional terms. The use of these terms will enable you to accurately communicate descriptive data about your patient to other members of the healthcare team, both verbally and in writing. References to the human body are always made as if the patient is standing in the anatomical position. This applies regardless of the actual position of the patient. In the anatomical position, the patient is standing upright with arms at the side, palms facing forward. The patient's legs are straight and the toes are pointing forward. The midline is an imaginary line that runs from the head to the feet through the umbilicus and divides the body into right and left halves. The midline is often used as a point of reference. In general, the axial portion of the body includes the head, neck, and trunk. The appendicular portion of the body include arms, upper extremities, and the legs or lower extremities. Flashpoint. If the patient is in the anatomical position and turns the palm inward with the thumbs facing forward, they have changed from the anatomical position to the fundamental position. So the anatomical position, it's like they're standing and they do have the thumbs on the outside, palms facing forward, as opposed to the fundamental, which is thumbs facing forward. Heading, body planes and movement. Body planes are imaginary slices or cuts through the body that divide it vertically or horizontally. They are used as points of reference. To visualize this, imagine a person standing in an upright position. Now imagine dissecting this person into 2 pieces with an imaginary vertical and horizontal planes. The sagittal plane runs vertically from front to back and divides the body into right and left halves. The frontal plane, as known as the coronal plane, runs vertically from left to right and divides the body into front and back portions. The transverse plane, also known as the horizontal plane, is horizontal and divides the body into upper and lower portions. Most movements of the body occur in these planes. When the motion of the body or body part is in an anterior or posterior direction, it is moving in the sagittal plane. These motions include flexion and extension. So let's read that again. Most movement of the body occurs in these planes, okay, when the motion of the body part, is in an anterior or posterior direction, meaning going forward or going backwards. It is moving in a sagittal plane. These motions include flexion and extension. When motion occurs in a medial or lateral direction, which is sideways, it is moving in the frontal plane. These motions include abduction and adduction, radial and ulnar deviation, and eversion and inversion. So that again is when the motion occurs in a medial or lateral direction, which is going to the side or going to the center of the body. It is moving in the frontal plane. The frontal plane, dividing it into left and right, from left and right. So the frontal plane is front to the back, right, coronal. When the motion occurs in a horizontal direction or produces rotation of a body part, it is moving in the transverse plane. This would be good to check out. It's on page 51 and 52. So, produces a rotation of the body. It is moving in the transverse plane. These motions include medial and lateral rotation, pronation, and supination. Supination, I don't know how to say that. And horizontal adduction and abduction. So there is a page 52, has all that and pictures that you can understand that more fully. Section Body Cavities, page 53, Regions and Quadrants. The body is divided into a dorsal cavity and ventral cavity. The dorsal cavity is located on the posterior or back part of the body. So the dorsal cavity is located on the posterior or back part of the body. It is further divided into the cranial cavity, which contains the brain, and the vertebral cavity, which contains the spinal column. The ventral cavity, located in the anterior or the front part of the body, consists of the thoracic and abdominopelvic cavities. The thoracic cavity contains the lungs, heart, great vessels, trachea, and thymus. The abdominal pelvic cavity is one large cavity, but an imaginary line is sometimes drawn to create a boundary between the abdominal and pelvic cavities. The abdominal cavity contains the stomach, pancreas, liver, gallbladder, and large and small intestines. The kidneys lie at the back of the abdomen in an area called the retroperitoneal space, just lateral to the spinal column. The pelvic cavity contains the sigmoid colon, rectum, bladder, and in females, the uterus, fallopian tubes, and ovaries. So this is on page 58, which would be good to research or study because it does have two images of the quadrants and the different regions to assimilate into the brain. Two systems are commonly used to visually divide the abdominal pelvic cavity for communication and documentation purposes. The 9-region system divides the cavity into 9 approximately equal sections. The 4-quadrant system divides it into 4 equal sections, which intersect at the umbilicus. The midline is an imaginary parallel line that runs through the umbilicus and divides the body into right and left halves. Flashpoint. The 9-region system divides the abdomen into a tic-tac-toe-like grid. And it is divided into left and right hypochondriac, lumbar, and iliac region, which is on both sides of the tic-tac-toe grid. And then in the middle is the epigastric region, umbilical region, and the hypogastric region. Hypo meaning below, so hypogastric region meaning the lower side, and I believe hypochondriac means like under the arm, but I'm not quite sure. So that is mostly all for Chapter 3 in the Medical Terminology in a Flash book. The rest of the pages do have some very helpful tables, which include directional terms and anatomical orientations, which would be best to use Quizlet or just memorize. And then there is also abbreviations for those anatomical orientations and directional terms, and movement. And then there is a pharmacological table with therapeutic classifications, generic and brand names, and common usage, which is quite extensive, which may need to be learned. And that is on page in the higher 60s. But after that, that is the end of Chapter 3.